Well, we've made it to episode 3, ladies and gentlemen, of Rings of Power, entitled Adar. Adar in Sindarin, or Elvish, means father. Basically, the title is Father for this episode, and much like with episodes 1 and 2, we have an hour long of little to nothing happening in terms of moving the plot forward, so to speak. Hello, this is Mara Jade, and I'm back with another video, and this is just my initial reaction, raw thoughts, review. For episode 3, I'll be going more into a spoiler live stream breakdown tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern, thereabouts, covering it more in depth, my thoughts, particularly on the lore breaking, because we have more in this episode. Yet this episode really primarily focuses on 2 locations, Numenor, as we see here, because as I thought from the previous episode, that in-name only Galadriel and non-canonical Hellbrand had drifted into the harbor of Numenor based on what I saw from the ship. However, it wasn't the harbor, it was Elendil in-name only's ship, and Elendil brings in-name only Galadriel and non-canonical Hellbrand to Numenor. So I knew that Numenor would factor in to this episode. I was just a little bit wrong in terms of when we would see it. But at any rate, so they drift into Elendil's ship. If anybody's been following the news knows that, like, once you see him on screen, you know that's Elendil, even without him giving his name. So he takes them to Numenor in this location, and the other location primarily shown in this episode is the Southlands, because this episode jumps from in-name only Galadriel to non-canonical Arondir and what he's facing after his capture in the previous episode. So basically, not going on into any spoilers or anything like that, but basically, primarily, Galadriel's she wants to escape Numenor. She really just wants to escape Numenor. She wants to get back to Middle-earth because she is a one-track fucking mind, and that is taking down Sauron. Because further emphasizing the reduction of Finrod's character to nothing more than a MacGuffin, pretty much. His death, Finrod's death, was nothing more than a plot device for Galadriel. They reduce one of the most badass characters in Tolkien mythology to nothing more than a stepping stone for warrior elf princess Galadriel, basically. But that's her one-track mind in this episode. She wants to leave Numenor. But Taramuriel and Ar-Pharazôn won't let either Galadriel wants to leave. She wants to take one of their ships and go, so she practically demands they give her one of the ships, pretty much. So again, she's a Karen, alright? But what I also have an issue with in this episode is Taramuriel and Ar-Pharazôn, their titles, because you find out early on when they were there introduced that Taramuriel is called Queen Regent, right? She's not a Queen Regent, she's a queen, right? When you have Regent in the title, that's basically someone who's warming the seat because the ruler is a kind of like a minor ruler of sorts, basically. And what they do to Ar-Pharazôn is they reduce him from king. He is, in mythology, Tolkien mythology, he is the 25th and last king of Numenor, but they give him the title of Chancellor. So they reduce his title, alright? Okay? And keep hers of sorts, but they add Regent to the title because there's no king. Even though Ar-Pharazôn is there, pretty much. But anyway. Okay, so, and you don't see Ar-Pharazôn anymore in this episode after that scene. That's his introduction, and then he's, poof, gone from the episode. You don't see him anymore. The only one you see afterwards is Taramuriel, primarily, when she's chastising Elendil for, I don't know what her feelings are about Hellbrand, because he's a human, nothing more to her than a commoner, pretty much, at least in terms of her personality and how she's taking everything in. But she has a major issue with Elendil bringing the elf, and she kind of points out that one of the translations for Elendil's name is Elf Friend, which harkens back to earlier days in Numenor, and they refer to him as like once of a noble line, and I'm like, he's still pretty much of a noble line, but they reduce him of sorts from once of a noble line to pretty much a sea captain of sorts. And his son, Isildur, is in a sense following suit, but at the same time wants to follow his own path, so to speak. So I'm waiting for the not just a phase dad conversations, because they touch on that a little bit in this episode. One other thing I have a issue with, now this is not in any way a criticism necessarily of the actress herself, but the fact that Elendil has 2 sons. In the lore, has 2 sons, no daughters, and Armarion's name is dropped. Okay, his other son's name is dropped, but we don't know where he is. He's not there, so we have no idea what happened to him in this episode. He's just not there. So what did they do? Because reasons, they give Elendil a daughter. Non-canonical. Elendil never had a daughter. Like I said, he had 2 sons, right? You also see the White Tree of Numenor, and anyone who knows, at least enough of the Second Age knows that seeds were taken from the White Tree when Ar-Pharazôn decides to go after Amon, pretty much, and he's seduced by Sauron, because we know Sauron's going to be playing a major part in Numenor's downfall at some point. He decides to go after the Valar, pretty much, and Elendil and his family and his followers are spared because they choose not to. So they take a seed of the White Tree, and that's a tree, essentially, that you see in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, the White Tree of Gondor. Okay? Pretty much. Anyway, so they're dropping member berries here and there, alright? But eventually, Galadriel, through conversation of threatening Elendil, which is again against her character, she wouldn't do that, finds out there's a Hall of Lore, figures out that there's a plan in place for Sauron to make his return, and the focus is in the Southlands, and like I said, it's been jumping back and forth, so we see what Arondir is going through. Him, and we find out that not only has he been captured by orcs, but his watch. You know, the other elves in his troop who went looking for him because he fucking deserted in the second episode to go find his single mama lover, pretty much. For whatever reason, I don't know. I'm saying, like, you know, he did that, so they went looking for him. They're captured, so he finds them, right? So it's been basically elves and humans are captured, which really doesn't make any sense to me that orcs would be using humans and elves to dig the tunnels. So it's essentially what they're doing. They're wanting them to dig these tunnels, caverns of sorts, pretty much. And they're using slave labor, literally, to do so. Doesn't really make any much sense to me, knowing what I know about what orcs were bred for, how many were bred, and so forth, pretty much. So, again, pretty much the memes write themselves at this point for this show. But anyway, they've been enslaved to dig these tunnels, okay? And at one point started planning their escape. More lore breaking happens because they introduce a warg. Now, anyone who's seen at least the Two Towers knows, like, a warg is like a wolf creature that orcs ride. They're called warg riders or wolf riders, whatever you want to call them as. But you really don't see wargs until the Third Age. This is the Third Age of the Sun, pretty much. So you really wouldn't be seeing them in the Second Age, but they have to drop the member berries, right? So we have that and used to help keep the elves and human slaves in line. A little bit more about the Harfoots, but there's really not much too, because really all focused on Nori stealing pages from Sadok's book of sorts to try to figure out what constellation the Meteor Man was drawing. But if you look at what he was drawing in the second episode, and you look up the Mark of Gandalf, it's I don't want to admit it, but it looks to be like, you know, they're dropping that he is Gandalf, pretty much, which again breaks lore because the Istari, the 5 wizards, do not enter Middle-earth, do not come until the Third Age, so more lore breaking. But anyway, that's the gist of the episode. Really is the gist of the episode in terms of, like, plot happenings. You know, Arondir is still captured. The elves and his group that are trying to make their escape, they're killed. He's still enslaved. The orcs, we're probably going to meet Adar, in a sense, in the next episode, because that's how they kind of end the episode in. That's pretty much it. I can't really go into a lot because, like I said, I'm not wanting to cover any major spoilers necessarily happening in this episode. At least for this review, I'll be doing that on the live stream tomorrow. But that's the gist of the episode. Bouncing back and forth from Numenor to Southlands and back to Numenor and then Southlands, and so to speak. We learn a little bit more of Hellbrand. learn a little bit more of Hellbrand. But then again, it's like, is he telling the truth? We don't know, because there are like at least a number of hints that have been dropping that he might actually be Sauron in disguise, which really doesn't make any sense. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying he isn't. I'm just looking at the clues and everything, knowing what I know about Sauron the Deceiver, and just none of this makes any fucking sense to me. But if you've seen the episode, what are your thoughts down in the comments below? Have you liked all 3 episodes so far? Have you disliked them? Are you on the fence? Are you kind of like mad to them? Let me know all that fun stuff. I'll be, again, continuing to review these levels of Purgatory each week, as well as doing the spoiler live stream breakdown the next day, so look for that. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I'll try to be live later tonight on Twitch, probably playing some Evil Dead since the new DLC has dropped, so check that out a little bit later on in the evening, probably about 7:30 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, thereabouts. Jade_Fire is my Twitch, so come hang out there. Again, like, share, subscribe, let me know all the fun stuff down in the comments below. This is Mara Jade. Catch you on the dark side, and can't wait to see what they fuck up in next week's episode.